large and the damage from the fire is so severe. So they will be talking to the fueler. Did it get the right kind of fuel? So this airplane uses kerosene. If it got mixed with gasoline, which could impact on the engine's performance because it's a higher temperature inside the engine when it burns. Mm-hmm. So you have a lot of pieces that are going to come together quickly.
Let me ask you about the size of some of the debris, John, that we might find in a circumstance like this. You mentioned the debris field could be quite large. It's one thing if it's Shanksville and it's an open field. It's something entirely different when you're talking about numerous homes, residences, businesses, busy streets. I mean, we could be looking at a massive debris field here. And if I'm hearing you correctly, even the smallest piece of material, if found, don't touch it, call police. But even the smallest piece could make a big difference in the investigation. Is that right?
No, yes, that is very correct. And it has actually done that. So sometimes the NTSB will go to great details to search the path of flight from the airport to the scene. On airplanes on takeoff, put a lot of stress on the airplane and on the engine. And these Learjets climb very quickly. This airplane, according to radar tracks, was only at 1,600 feet. So something happened relatively quickly, either directly on takeoff or just immediately after takeoff to get this pilot in this condition. Was he climbing rapidly to try to get above the weather? The radar tracks will show us that. The NTSB already has that, but they'll analyze it tomorrow. And so all the pieces, and there's multiple pieces, not just in the debris field, will come together over the next few days and paint a general picture of what happened. And then from that picture, the NTSB will start boring down on the details that they think initially may have caused or had a role in this event. And then as time goes on, the focus could even go deeper or it could scatter. I mean, we've been 2 or 3 days into investigations when we uncovered some evidence that took us in an entirely different direction. So
now that is exactly the kind of detail that I think people need to know as we continue to watch how this all unfolds. John, it's really great to have you with us tonight. I know we could probably spend the whole hour talking about the incredible detail that the women and men of the NTSB will have to really pay close attention to as this investigation continues. But again, thank you so much to the former NTSB board member and former airline mechanic, John Golia. Jonathan, over to you.
Kevin, great analysis of just how difficult these investigations are as we continue our coverage of this tragic air crash in Philadelphia. 6 people aboard a medevac Learjet, including a little girl who had just had life-saving treatment at Shriners Hospital. Our coverage continues after the break.
Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like to check the game is actually over before you storm the court. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate.
Most men over 40 look into the mirror and see this, when they could be seeing this. Most men over 40 look into the mirror and see this, when they could be seeing this. Most men over 40 look into the mirror and see this, when they could be using this. Particle 6-in-1 Face Cream for Men. The first of its kind anti-aging cream designed specifically for men. Fights eye bags, dark spots, and wrinkles. Visit ParticleMen.com and use the promo code on your screen to receive 25% off your entire order. Plus, we've got free shipping and a 30-day money-back guarantee. www.particlemen.com. Because seeing is believing.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 six-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sailed, because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
An exclusive with J.D. Vance. As the administration makes sweeping changes inside next steps in their agenda, Maria has the one-on-one with the vice president on Sunday Morning Futures.
Love will keep us together. Now for something you can both agree on. A Sleep Number smart bed is perfect for couples. The Climate 360 smart bed is the only bed that cools and warms on each side. And all our smart beds adjust the firmness for each of you. Let's agree to agree on better sleep. And now save 50% on the new Sleep Number limited edition smart bed, plus 0% interest for 36 months. Shop now.
Bring it.
Bring it. Bring it.
Benavidez versus Morrell in a night of title fights February 1st on BBC pay-per-view.
Visit sling.com/account.
Think of what we could do together. Absolutely remarkable.
Rent now on Sling.
We're seeing a mix of local, state, and federal officials working on the crash investigation in Philadelphia. Joining us now with more is Jonathan Gilliam, former FBI agent and former federal air marshal. Jonathan, lay out the key steps as we get closer to daybreak. Investigatively, what are we looking at in terms of the first things that we have to do, especially once we get into the day?
Well, if they haven't found it already, they're going to be looking for the black boxes, of course. Once they find that, I think it's going to tell probably everything that they need to know, if it was pilot error or if there was an issue inside that plane that was causing them to have such a traumatic accident. So I think that's what they're going to be looking at. They're going to be looking at the debris field. They're going to be all these different aspects of the investigation. Once it gets brighter, it gets better. But fortunately, in the area where this occurred, in this urban area, it's pretty lit up. It's not like what you saw in D.C. in the Potomac River, where it's very dark when you get onto a river. So this is a little bit different, and I think the investigation will probably move a lot faster because they don't have to recover things from the water. They don't have the danger that they have in the other aspects of what you've seen this week.
Excellent point there. Let me also ask you about the collection and the reconstruction aspect of the investigation. Are we looking at months, years before we have a full understanding of what happened?
In this circumstance, I don't think that's going to be the case, because typically if the black box is recoverable and is readable, and these things are amazingly tough, they're going to be able to determine pretty quickly if it was a pilot error or if it was some type of mechanical or electrical malfunction that caused this. I think they're going to see those things very quickly. Now, whether or not they issue those results quickly is another story, because they do their due diligence and they do a thorough investigation. But that, in this type of a situation where there's no evidence of terrorism, no nexus to that type of an issue, they're going to be able to, that black box is going to tell them a tremendous amount of what they need to know.
From your vantage point, and you've seen investigations like this play out for years, in my capacity as a journalist, I have as well. I am hard-pressed to remember seeing a jet come in at that pitch, which raises a number of questions about what may have happened in the sky. In the last 30 seconds or so, your impression of what we're probably looking at in this circumstance?
Well, we have seen similar things, but just not in the United States. We have not seen something like this with this type of video. But there's some interesting things about this one. The fact that the engines, it sounded like the engines were really throttled up. The speed at which that aircraft hit the ground and the vector that it was taken, which is pretty straight down. I just think that what this is pointing towards is not a failure as much as it is an accident in the way that these pilots thought they were going in a direction that they were not. And so I have a feeling that's where it's going to come down to. But again, the black box is going to tell us everything that we need to know.
Jonathan Gilliam, former federal air marshal, thank you so much for your time tonight. We certainly appreciate that. Let's send it over to Jonathan Hunt.
And we have a Fox News alert out of Gaza. You are looking live right now at the beach that runs to the western edge of Gaza City and the northern end of the Gaza Strip. That is the stage on which we expect to see any moment 65-year-old U.S. citizen Keith Siegel, who has been held hostage since the Hamas invasion of Israel and the massacre of October 7th, 2023. A 65-year-old Siegel has been in Israel for about 4 decades. He's originally from North Carolina, but he moved to Israel when he was in his 20s. His wife, Aviva, was also taken hostage during the Hamas invasion. She was freed during a previous ceasefire in November 2023. 2 other Israeli hostages were released a short time ago. They are 54-year-old Ofer Calderon and 35-year-old Yarden Bibas. They were released in southern Gaza, but that, as I say, is northern Gaza, just to the edge of Gaza City. And we have been waiting now for about an hour to see 65-year-old American Keith Siegel. We still expect to see him. We are told he is waiting there to be handed over. The way it's normally happened is they are put into a Red Cross vehicle and then driven into Israel to be handed back to the Israeli Defense Forces, who take them off to a hospital for the checkups that are so necessary after so long in captivity. We hope to see Keith Siegel very soon. In the meantime, Kevin, it's been an honor being with you on what has been a very tough week for this country. 2 tragic air crashes over 48 hours, first in D.C. and now this awful one in Philadelphia. It's been a tough week and tough events for us all to witness, Kevin.
Yeah, very difficult, especially when you consider young people were involved in both crashes. Very difficult. But yeoman's work out of you and Chanley and CB Cotton as well. And for the entire crew, behind the scenes and in front of the camera, I'm Kevin Cork in Washington. From our partner Jonathan Hunt in Los Angeles, we thank you for watching Fox News.
That made me emotional. Did you guys feel that?
You are really special. What does it feel like to be so damn loved?
Eli, looks like we're running low on slider rolls.
Don't worry. I invited my team, too.
Your team?
Looks like Eli saved Slider Sunday.
Again.
King's Hawaiian Slider Sunday.
The only way to Sunday.
Ever wonder what the Experian app can do? The benefits are all around you. See your FICO score for free. Raise it instantly before your next big purchase. Find the new credit card that matches your lifestyle. Download the Experian app and try it for free.
Super Beta Prostate is the #1 selling brand for men's prostate and urinary health. And for the 3rd year in a row, it's the #1 urologist recommended brand.
In time, you'll notice less urges to urinate, improved bladder emptying, and you won't be getting up at night for so many bathroom trips.
Urologist recommended Super Beta Prostate. Also available in gummies. Find it at Walmart.
IRS. 3 letters that strike fear into everyone. And for good reason. The IRS is the most powerful collection agency on earth. And being in debt to the IRS can have serious consequences. Oftentimes it begins with the IRS sending you a collection letter, but then escalates. And before you know it, you're having your paychecks garnished, your bank account seized, even your home or business could be at risk.
My problem was I hadn't paid my taxes in 8 years. I was trying to take on the IRS by myself. I have 5 children, I'm trying to take care of my kids, and it was a lot of stress.
I owed the IRS over $10,000. They told me the possibilities of garnishing my wages to resolve this debt that I owed them.
I owed a lot of money to the IRS, almost $15,000. Well, there was nothing I could do about it. I was just overwhelmed at what to do.
These stories are all too common. But thankfully, there's Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 most trusted tax resolution firm. Optima's experts have helped thousands of people with stories just like these resolve their tax debt.
I owe $15,000. I only had to pay $3,500, and now my debt is clean. I don't owe anything. It was easy, like 1, 2, 3.
Since I've settled everything with the IRS, with Optima Tax help, I'm going to be able to succeed instead of just worry.
They sent the paperwork in for the debt to be cleared, the liens to be taken off. Now I'm a happy camper now. If you owe the IRS, don't go it alone. Give Optima Tax a call.
So don't wait. Today you have options. Tomorrow you might not. Optima's tax professionals are standing by, ready to help you now.
For a free consultation, call 800-587-3950.
Optima Tax Relief.
A heart attack? Do they have life insurance?
No.
But we have life insurance. John.
I'm trying to find something we can afford.
Fortunately, in only a few minutes, SelectQuote found John a $500,000 policy for only $29 a month. And his wife Anne a $500,000 policy for only $21 a month. Go to SelectQuote.com now and get the insurance your family needs
at a price you can afford. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
They didn't set out to change America. That's what ended up happening.
Straight to a Fox News alert. A medical transport jet with a child patient, her mom, and 4 others aboard crashing and exploding near a mall yesterday in Philadelphia.
Yeah, the blast setting homes on fire and hurting multiple people on the ground.
Nate Foy is live in Philadelphia with more. Nate, good morning.
Hey guys, good morning. Just a tragedy that investigators are working hard to understand this morning, and it's all hands on deck with federal authorities, the NTSB and FAA leading the investigation, but also with state and local authorities as well, with Governor Josh Shapiro coming immediately after the crash and speaking last night. You mentioned 6 people at least were killed. Those were the people on board the medical jet. We'll tell you more about them momentarily. What remains unknown is how many people were hurt or killed on the ground, because this jet came down hard and fast in a crowded area. Take a look at the video. The entire flight lasted less than a minute. It just struck the ground as if it was a rocket coming out of the sky. It incinerated homes because there was a massive explosion and cars were on fire, homes were on fire, about 3 to 4 city blocks according to local firefighters. So they had quite just a horrible situation to respond to. And we're learning how sad this is with a particular story of why this plane was flying. Take a look at this statement from Shriners Children's Hospital. Shriners Children's is heartbroken to confirm that one of our pediatric patients and the child's mother were aboard the Jet Rescue Air Ambulance that crashed in Philadelphia this evening. The patient had received care from Shriners Children's Philadelphia and was being transported back to her home country in Mexico on a contracted air ambulance when the crash happened. Because of patient privacy concerns, we cannot say any more about the patient and her family at this time. So take a look at some of the aftermath from this crash. Firefighters do confirm that they did pull at least some people out of homes that were on fire. This was just an absolute crisis after the massive explosion that looked like a bomb went off in northeast Philadelphia. Take a look at the flight path here. The plane took off from northeast Philadelphia Airport. I mentioned the entire flight was under a minute. You see how close by it went down. And also take a look at where it went down. This is near the Roosevelt Mall. This was very bad. It could have been even worse because it came down just outside the mall. But this is a very populated area, and I mentioned all the row homes in northeast Philadelphia that were badly damaged as a result of it, as well as people who were just driving in the area and happened to be affected as well. First responders just painting a really grim scene as we're still waiting to actually learn more details about how many people have been hurt or possibly killed on the ground who were not on that jet. But I mentioned Governor Shapiro coming here shortly after. Here's what he had to say.
What you're seeing here is a unified response to an awful aviation disaster. For as awful as that aviation disaster was, tonight we also saw the best of Philly. We saw neighbor helping neighbor. We saw Pennsylvanians looking out for one another.
Take a look at this next video showing an oxygen tank that was on board the medical jet. It was found a quarter of a mile away from the crash site. So that gives you an idea of the power of this explosion and how far the debris has been found. Take another look at this next video as you see a boarded up restaurant. There was somebody who was eating nearby and a small piece of shrapnel went through the window and actually hit that pedestrian while they were eating. So, you know, that's an example of somebody who was injured. And unfortunately, I'm sure there will be several stories of people who were more injured. And at this point, you hope for the best. Investigators have shut off the road just to our right. You can see part of the emergency response behind me right now. We are hearing that local officials may give an update today. We don't know exactly what time that might come. There was some talk about an 8 a.m. news conference. Now it appears that is not solidified. So we are continuing to try to learn as much information as we possibly can as investigators continue to comb the crash site. But what's really difficult specifically with this crash is that this plane went down so fast and so hard. It was such a large explosion that there's not going to be a whole lot of this plane that remains intact or even fragments of it, because there was just such a massive inferno that resulted from the blast when it struck the ground. we'll send it back to you.
Hey, Nate, so the 6 known fatalities are from the airplane that you, as you say, was in a fireball and exploded. I saw some footage online of a man coming out of the flames. He looked like he survived. Based on what you're seeing, did it hit homes directly? Is there a chance that we might see no other fatalities, maybe just injuries? Or based on what you're seeing, it's just that we don't know yet, but there's going to be fatalities on the ground?
We don't know yet, and that's obviously something, Rachel, that you don't want to proclaim before you know.
Sure.
But I can tell you that when first responders showed up, they described the scene that they saw as really grim and with people severely injured and worse.
Wow.
What's unknown is if there's some way that, what that first responder saw was someone who was on the jet. It's difficult to say at this point, but I can tell you that between 3 and 4 blocks of row homes were at least fully or partially for a period of time on fire, and firefighters were pulling people out of homes. And the good news is that we know that they were successful in many of those efforts, and they were able to pull people out. So, this is a good time for prayers, and hopefully the casualty number is smaller than what it looks like it could possibly be when you see that terrifying video.
So, Nate, obviously this neighborhood is probably accustomed to hearing jets take off from that airport, which is, I gather, maybe less than a mile away. But do you have a sense from talking to people, what was the first that they realized something was amiss? You see these amazing doorbell cams where you have this streak diving directly into the ground, but were there sounds that sounded different for people, or was it just suddenly an inferno?
I would say probably more the latter, Charlie, because this happened so fast. The plane was really traveling at a fast speed when it hit the ground, and I'm sure that there was a split second of panic when you could hear it coming, but people were caught off guard. And we mentioned the person who was eating and was struck by a piece of shrapnel. People were just going about their day, and it's been really, really cold in the Northeast. It was a little bit warmer. People were out. This is a city that is getting ready for the Eagles to be in the Super Bowl. It was a Friday. People were out and about. And this is the last thing that you ever expect to happen, even after the plane crashed for entirely different reasons, it appears, on Wednesday in Washington, D.C. But I don't think that there was a whole lot of time, Charlie. I think that people were caught off guard, and the pilots themselves, either had a plane issue, and that's something that they're looking into right now. Investigators are, but things went south really quickly on board that plane. The entire flight lasted less than a minute. So for the people in the plane, the tragedy unfolded really quickly, and for the people on the ground, I mean, they just had no idea that it was coming.
Nate, I know that putting the plane back together is the first thing investigators will try to do to see when and where something went wrong. You showed that oxygen tank that's, I think you said it was a quarter or half a mile away. So I guess the debris field is pretty big. What are the local authorities telling people if they're waking up this morning, maybe they watch the coverage in their house, but then they find something in their yard or on their street?
Well, Joey, that's a good point, and that's a big challenge for investigators right now because the blast was so big, and you mentioned the oxygen tank, other debris, pretty far away from the impact site. They have such a big perimeter right now where there's a lot of evidence scattered all over the place, and one thing that we did hear from the mayor of Philadelphia and other officials, they're advising people not to touch anything that could possibly be evidence. So right now I mentioned that authorities have blocked off the road to our right. This is as close as we can get to the crash site right now, but it was raining yesterday. This happened at night. Authorities, as the sun comes up, perhaps will find more clues, but keep in mind also a lot of things in the area were covered in jet fuel. So the entire area was hazardous. It's a crime scene where investigators are going to need to preserve all the evidence they possibly can to try to piece this together, which in this case will be even harder than a normal investigation because of how massive the explosion was and how hard the jet struck Earth. So, a lot of work to be done.
Thank you, Nate.
Thanks, Nate.
Now let's go. Yep. Now let's go to an in-depth map showing the plane's flight path until the crash. The Learjet took off from Northeast Philadelphia Airport after 6 p.m. At 6:06, the aircraft starts its descent from over 1,600 feet. Moments later, the plane drops below radar level, crashing to the ground in a Castor Gardens neighborhood in Philadelphia near the Roosevelt Mall. The first call to 911 was made at 6:12. Fire crews quickly raced to the crash site.
Yeah, in reaction to the devastating crash is pouring in as we learn more about the plane and the Mexico-based company that operates it.
Chanley Painter is here with the details. Chanley.
Hey guys, so we are seeing a mix of local, state, and federal partners stepping up, including President Trump and leaders in his administration offering resources as part of a massive and unified response. President Trump taking to Truth Social with this quote, "So sad to see the plane go down in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. More innocent souls lost. Our people are totally engaged. First responders are already being given credit for doing a great job. More to follow. God bless you all." Vice President J.D. Vance echoing the same sentiments, saying, quote, "Very sad situation. May God bless the victims and their families." The new Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, who is facing his second tragedy in just his third day on the job, immediately vowing the resources of the department last night. The FAA and the NTSB are already on the ground, and more resources are expected this morning. Now, the plane that crashed was a Learjet 55, a fixed-wing multi-engine aircraft capable of holding up to 13 people and reaching speeds of 527 miles per hour. The plane served as a medical ambulance jet by a Mexico-based company called Jet Rescue. The plane was heavily used, making 2 to 3 trips daily.
This aircraft was in excellent condition, well maintained like the rest of our fleet. We are a leading air ambulance company. We fly 600 to 700 times a year with critically ill or injured patients. And by all counts in the industry, we are well regarded. And it's just an unfortunate turn of events.
And this is the second deadly crash for the company, Jet Rescue, in 15 months, guys.
Thank you, Chanley.
Thanks, Chanley.
Last night's tragedy in Philly comes just 2 days after the deadly collision between an American Airlines plane and a Black Hawk helicopter in D.C.
Yeah, this morning barges are ramping up salvage operations as we're learning more about one of the air traffic controllers working at Reagan National Airport that night.
Madeline Rivera is in Washington, D.C. with the details. Madeline, good morning.
Good morning. There have been several questions about staffing at the air traffic control tower at Reagan National Airport during the time of the crash. The New York Times, citing an internal preliminary FAA safety report and a source briefed on staffing, reports an air traffic control supervisor allowed one air traffic controller to leave the job early Wednesday evening, so one person was reportedly doing the job of 2 people handling air traffic control for helicopters and incoming planes. The FAA did not respond to questions about staffing, but the NTSB says interviews with air traffic controllers are being done. They will look into the history of the air traffic controller who was on duty that night, looking into their training and their hiring. Salvage crews will be out on the scene today, working on getting the aircraft out of the water. So far, at least 41 bodies have been recovered, 28 of whom have been identified. Meantime, the NTSB says it found a black box recorder from the Army Black Hawk. Investigators say visually it didn't appear that the recorder had exterior damage that would suggest it's compromised. So they feel confident they will be able to get information and data from that black box recorder. The NTSB had found the black box recorders of the regional jet on Thursday. The NTSB has been holding briefings with the victims' family members. Check this out. First responders saluting the remains of service members as they were taken from the scene. 2 crew members of that Black Hawk have been identified: Chief Warrant Officer 2 Andrew Eves and Crew Chief Ryan O'Hara. The FAA is now restricting helicopter traffic near DCA until the NTSB completes its preliminary investigation. Charlie, Rachel, and Joey.
Thank you, Madeline.
Thanks, Maddie.
Thank you. And now to a Fox News alert overseas. 3 hostages now back in Israel after being released by Hamas earlier this morning.
That includes American Keith Siegel, the first U.S. citizen to be released by the terror organization.
And Trey Yinks joins us live in Tel Aviv. Trey?
Yeah, hey guys, good morning. Another hostage release taking place today with 3 more people coming home. American citizen Keith Siegel was released by himself from the port of Gaza in Gaza City. We do know Keith was taken with his wife, Aviva, from the community of Kfar Aza. She was released during the first ceasefire. Ofer Calderon was also freed from southern Gaza in the city of Khan Yunis, along with Yarden Bibas. Yarden, his wife, and 2 young children were kidnapped on the 7th and haven't been seen since. You'll notice the scenes were far less chaotic today. Israel had threatened Hamas with pausing the release of Palestinian prisoners if the hostages were paraded through a crowd again. We do know this exchange is taking place later today for more than 100 Palestinian prisoners. 30 of them will be freed into the West Bank, the majority, though, going back into Gaza, an indication that many of them have life sentences and again will be freed from Israeli prisons. When you see the images, though, today along the Gaza border of these families reuniting, you just think about the Yarden Bibas, this man who was dragged into Gaza, and his 2 young children and wife who remain there. This is really a focal point for the Israelis as they are demanding that all the hostages be released. Guys?
Thank you, Trey.
Thanks, Trey.
Well, you guys, Keith's wife was also held hostage for 51 days. If you guys recall, she spoke to Fox and Friends back in December. Let's take a flashback and look at what she had to say. Her name is Aviva.
Keith is the most sweetest, loving person in earth. He's very proud to be American, and he's waiting to get out of Gaza. He's there, suffering underneath the ground, in the worst conditions than anybody could ever handle. And Keith is so sensitive. He's just waiting and keeping alive to come back to his family and his grandchildren that love him so much and can't wait for him to come back.
Yeah, you know, we sit here this morning, I think, with a renewed appreciation for reuniting with our families with the news of the last couple of days. And the idea that there are people at DCA and now there are people in Mexico who are just standing there waiting on their family to get back. That won't happen. And to know that there are at least, I guess, some good news this morning in the sense that a family will be reunited, a handful of families.